The ego is the system that runs your sense of self. It is made out of thought patterns, emotions, and behavioral loops, and the stories that try to hold it all together. Left unchecked, it creates endless existential searching, chronic disconnection, and the persistent sense that something is wrong. The goal of my videos is clarity, to see your identity and its contradictions for what they are, named precisely, to finally understand what it is that we're all running away from. The purpose of my life was to know everything. And this is why now I know everything. Now, if you are a reasonable human being, your reaction to what I just said is doubt, which is a very reasonable reaction, because how am I supposed to know everything? It's pretty much impossible for one person to know everything. But at the same time, you must admit that deep down, the philosophical hunger and this truth-seeking nature is about wanting to know everything. You don't just want knowledge for the sake of knowledge. Like, there's a ton of stuff you know. 2 + 2 is 4. Chocolate tastes bitter or sweet. Salt is salty. There are a lot of random facts that are pretty much irrelevant, and they're not the truth that we are after. And for a truth seeker who has, for his entire life, been looking for the truth and not found it, some people for decades, and then there comes a guy, and I'm not really just talking about me, it's really any person who then claims to have like some deep existential knowledge or as the truth of the universe, then skepticism or doubt is like the logical consequence, right? Like, of course you're doubtful. If you haven't been able to really feel certain, then whatever certainty this other person has must be delusional. And then doubt gets put on a pedestal. And you can find this in so many communities, especially in the skeptical communities, where if you are doubtful and not naive about something, then you're seen as more intelligent. Quickly believing something is actually kind of seen as, naive. And if you can always give counter arguments to what other people say, then you, of course, are going to be perceived more intelligent. And it's not just that you're going to be perceived more intelligent, but people tend to believe whoever is disagreeing with something, because people are scared of being wrong. So in whatever debate you find yourself in, usually giving the more like anti-position or the contrarian position is very charismatic, because nobody wants to be fooled, and this guy can save you from all the false beliefs that you might fall into. Now, doubt, in a very meaningful way, is actually the cornerstone of absolute existential knowledge. Like the typical sentence, I only know that I know nothing. And it is, of course, a paradox, because then kind of everything that could possibly be known is known. And therefore, he does kind of know everything. And what you can find here is that there's no way to find whatever is true without doubt. Skepticism is necessary in order to find out everything that is wrong. If you are not skeptical, then you are full of wrong beliefs that society indoctrinated you with. And you kind of have to strip all of these different layers of wrong belief systems and ideologies and cultures that society kind of programs you with, especially if you come from like a even more propagandist place than, let's say, centered Europe, although everything is kind of moving towards a more propagandized route. But this propaganda is not just a political thing, right? It's happening in all cultures, in all society, in school, when people like gossip between each other. If you have the ability to not immediately believe whatever people say to you, and then you start to doubt what is being said, then you are coming from a more like epistemological humble position in the first place. But this quickly becomes a trap, because if the goal is to actually know, and your immediate reaction towards everything is doubt, then at which point does it become necessary to be doubtful of your doubt? Like, can you be skeptical about your own skepticism? And do you need to be skeptical about the skepticism of your own skepticism? You, again, fall into this endless loop where doubt seems to be like the ground truth of it all, because you can never find real certainty. And in a lot of videos, what I say is that the real ground truth. Like real certainty can only happen within consciousness and within experience. Like the vivid sensation of experience is like what can be truly known. But then also it kind of feels whimsical. And if you're not really in contact with immediate experience, then it also kind of feels like, yeah, but it could be a hallucination. It could be a projection of my mind. It could be that I'm a brain in a vat, and therefore I can even doubt my own conscious experience, and therefore nothing is real. And this is kind of like the ultimate layer of the skeptic. And at this point, the skeptic feels very convinced that his logic is flawless and there's no way you can kind of contradict it, and that infinite doubt is kind of like the true nature of existence. And certain phrases, like the phrase that I just used before, kind of are evidence of the fact. And it only comes after a lot of frustration that you find that no matter how much you are doubting everything, this yearning still remains. This desire to know truth still remains. And the opposite of this desire feels kind of like being dead inside or not acknowledging something deeper within you. So this pull towards truth as something real and mattering kind of contradicts the fact that doubt seems to be the ground of all things. Because like I have established in the beginning of this video, there are a lot of things that are true. Like salt is salty. And this is just how it is. It is tautological. It is self-defining, like 1 equals 1. And reality is tautological. It is self-defined. And this desire for truth that is kind of certain and absolute, and the fact that truths do exist, at least in some relative sense, must imply that there is a deeper layer than doubt. There must be a deeper layer than doubt that the soul is clinging for if you can verify that truth exists in any shape at all. And if you are going to argue that truth doesn't exist in any shape at all, then how are you even parsing the words? This is like a non-starter position. This means that there must be something that is real, there must be something that is true, and there must be something that is beyond doubt that will kind of force you to go into the scary place of maybe being wrong about something. It is the fear of being wrong about something that makes people cling to their own doubt, because they kind of believe that this is like the safe position. If you can always doubt everything and you say that the only thing you know is that you know nothing, then there's nothing really to attack, right? You're just going to deny everything and be skeptical about everything and then pretend you have the intellectual high ground, because it's like the little bubble that you have carved for yourself. And then imagine the shock through an awakening experience when you see that the doubt was actually a huge armor. It was a shield that your own ego has used out of insecurity. That all you really try to do is to not be wrong, and that the wrongness is the reason that you now have decided to doubt everything. And then the moment you start to realize, okay, truth actually exists out there and it can be known, and I kind of have to see through my doubt to find it, then a lot of stuff opens up. And usually what opens up for people is a lot of fear. There's excitement, but there's also a lot of fear. And it's not just fear about being wrong, but it's fear about what will the truth then be? If there is actually some uniting truth, or ultimate truth, or a certain truth out there, and you can actually find it beyond any reasonable doubt, then what will it be? What could it be? And a lot of people get scared because there's a lot of ultimate truths that you could come up with that are actually quite scary. Like I remember that I had always this fear of this endless loop where you just die and then immediately restart your life from your birth, and then existence is truly like this infinite trap where every time you die you just completely restart your life and have to go do everything over again for all eternity. These were like the things that I started to like conceptualize when I noticed that there probably is some metaphysical structure to all of this. And this scared me a lot. And you might say, okay, now I assume you're not scared of this anymore, so how do you know that this isn't the case? And in a real way, like, you cannot know, right? Like, if this is the 100th time that you lived this life, then you wouldn't know, because every time is experienced as the first time. So this kind of line of thinking is pretty pointless. You will never actually go anywhere. But how could you be certain that something is not the case? This in of itself doesn't really make sense, because you cannot prove a negative. You can only prove a positive. But maybe the concept of proof is even the entire wrong framework in the first place. For example, if I'd ask you if you know that I have a conscious experience, then you would just say yes. And we could introduce doubt in some philosophical, semantical sense, right? You could ask, how do you really know? Like, are you 100% certain that I'm not a conscious experience? Don't you have to be epistemologically humble and say that maybe I don't actually have a conscious experience, and I'm like a philosophical zombie that doesn't experience internally? And then a philosopher would say, yes, that's true. I cannot actually know if you are conscious or not. And the bar that is being set here for what true certainty implies kind of sneaks itself into some weird head realm. Like, you intellectualize something that in its immediacy doesn't need the distinction. Like, if you look at somebody, you don't look at them as conscious or unconscious. You just look at them as like a person or an animal. And this entire overlay of, is there some internal experience there, is kind of like inferred through how the being expresses itself. And if you can experience somebody else in pain, and then you can see this pain because the person reacts like and tells you clearly that they are in pain, the only way you could not be in contact with truth is through doubt. And this is what we do all the time. The truth is staring right in front of our face, and we just doubt it. And as long as you doubt it, you cannot be certain. As long as you're not certain, you'll always be a seeker. The real drop that happens through these layers of awakening is a drop of doubt. Like, doubt drops away on different layers. And there you notice how absolute it actually means to, fully dissolve your sense of identity. It works this way because the moment you stop to identify with your own ego identity and you start to merge with existence or consciousness or being, then as a consequence, you start to cling less to finite notions of truth. Like, salt is salty and coffee can be warm or cold, or it can be sweet. And yesterday I slept for 7 hours. Like, all of these facts are all equally true. Or maybe one was a lie. Can you catch the lie? No, but all truths are equally true if they are true. So there's not really a hierarchy between these things. And the only thing that creates this level of hierarchy is your level of certainty. And your level of certainty is correlating to your level of doubt. Remove your doubt and you find certainty. Now, how do you know that you're not deluding yourself? How do you know that the dropping away of doubt is sincere and not some sort of wishful thinking, which often happens? Especially the truths that you might uncover are sometimes so positive and so like wholesome that the feeling that you must be deluding yourself and then doubt enters the picture. This kind of sequence makes a ton of sense because we're also so taught to be skeptical of positive things. And if something appears too positive, then doubt is also like this immediate reaction. But what if the true nature of existence is something so amazing and beautiful and perfect that, of course, you're going to doubt it when you see it first? Now, the real way to remove these layers of doubt is not by telling yourself what you want to be true or focusing on the truth and then ignoring all this doubt. It's actually the opposite. It's diving deeper into this doubt. And this is what all the skeptics get right. You do want to be skeptical of everything. Don't trust nobody. Don't trust me. Don't trust yourself. Don't trust your mind. Don't trust your teachers. Don't trust absolutely anybody. And then from there, you kind of start to eliminate things like, okay, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. And even if you say something's wrong, you can still keep it in like a bucket and then look at it at another point, because maybe you were mistaken. Maybe it's actually not wrong. And you just kind of put it in a bucket too quickly. So there's no ultimate decision here that you need to make. But then you start to sort things out by what you think is trustworthy. And then through the mud, stuff clears and you find, okay, this is actually truthful. Like I can see that this is true. And the way you're going to know that this is true is because you're not attached to being wrong. Like if you see something and your doubt drops away and then you can recognize it in its immediacy, like you just know, then in the future, let's say 3 months pass, and then you can look at it again, and then you can figure out if this truth that you have uncovered has some attachments in relationship to certainty and doubt. Like, how much do you care about being correct on that thing? How much do you care about your own certainty, and how much do you care about your own doubt? And it is this care that is the deepest hint to figure out if you're actually thinking or relating to it right or not. Because if you notice that you want it to be right and you really do not want it to be wrong, then you can almost be certain that you still have doubts underneath it. And this doesn't mean that it is right or it is wrong. You don't really know. But the doubt points you to the fact that it has not actually been completely integrated. And oftentimes when you have like a recognition, which by the way, I facilitate recognitions through my ego architecture audit, which you can find in the link in the description, these recognitions reveal something to you. And in the moment, they feel like this has already been deeply known. And I already knew, and I just forgot. And the truth often has this quality. It's like, oh, I already knew this and I just forgot. And I forgot it so deeply that now that I'm uncovering it again, I'm like, surprised and I'm like in awe. And there's often a feeling of beauty, a feeling of love that comes with it. And then doubt usually doesn't enter the picture. Like it's not possible to doubt it because it's just so obvious that doubt is not really in question there. And through this process, you remove all of the doubt, and then you'll come to a point where on this existential level, on this deep self-knowledge, relation to reality level, you feel like you know everything. You feel you know everything there is to know because you completely know yourself. And this doesn't mean that you can tell who you're going to be in a week from now. You are still evolving and changing all the time. It's not that you can know everything about yourself, like literally, because you cannot know who you are going to be in the future, but you know everything about yourself in every moment. And this also includes the possibility of like being wrong about like some like factual things, right? Because a part of being human is that you can be wrong about like factual matters. And if you're truly certain about your own existential nature, then it won't cost you anything to admit that you were at fault and to correct your mistake.